Welcome to the Poke Tea Time podcast, where we serve you up a cup of the hottest takes of what's going on in the Pokemon community. I'm NotShivam, and today we are honored, and I'm very, very pleased to have the one and only Mr. Fuji here live with us on the Poke Tea Time podcast. It's been a long time coming. You know, I've been following you for the past 3 years, ever since I came into the community. I remember when I first followed you, you only had a little over 1,000 followers, and the first picture I saw that you posted was a picture of your Pikachu Illustrator card in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I was like, "Who is this guy? This guy is very interesting." And at that time, I didn't know the super the importance of the Pikachu Illustrator at that time. And I just knew it was very, very rare, and I knew it was a trophy card. I didn't know it was, the most sought-after trophy card. Some would say the first place Pika trophy card is the most sought-after card, but that's one of the most sought-after cards that you have a picture of. And that's when I first followed you. And, since then, we always talk from time to time back and forth. And, again, it's an honor to have you. Everyone, please shoot some rocket ship emojis, fire emojis in the chat right now. We have the one and only Mr. Fuji in the chat. What's going on? How's it going?
Oh, thank you, NotShivam, for the great introduction. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy, as you mentioned, we know one another for more than 3 years, approximately. We even got the chance to meet one another in real life in the US, which was a blast. We had a great time. And we wanted to do that podcast for years. And I think it was great that we waited until now. So, yeah, everything's going fine.
Yeah, I'm
Lot
sure
of
you've had.
things
Oh,
going
sorry to
on.
cut you off. I said,
No problem.
I'm sure you've had a really, really busy few weeks now. I know the video that you were just featured in was shot over a year ago, but that video
Mhm.
dropping now is very, very massive. And one of the biggest things that I noticed within Logan Paul's video was that um there wasn't quite an emphasis on the actual names of the people involved. And then this is not anything bad towards Logan. It's just that I feel like that could have added a little bit more significance to the people that kind of put all of this together, right? So to kind of quickly go through it, we had yourself, Mr. Fuji, being a representative of Dubsy Collections, if that's correct. We had Hadoken Nito,
Correct.
who also got involved. I'm sure there's a lot more people involved, and Mr. Fuji can talk about a little bit more towards the very end. But I wanted to have this podcast to talk about Mr. Fuji and who he is as an individual first, before we talk about any Logan Paul stuff. But we'll touch on that towards the end. If you guys haven't, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are just a few subscribers away from hitting 1,000, which is massive. And if you're listening to us through Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a 5-star review. It helps. Before we get right into like the juicy details, I want to know how you first got involved with Pokemon. I know you being overseas, I'm sure that growing up with Pokemon was probably a little bit more different than what most of us Americans grew up with, but I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of us around the world can pretty much come to a level of common understanding where we all love Pokemon and we can all really get along with each other. And I think that's kind of how yours and my friendship kind of blossom in that regard. Us meeting for the first time in Las Vegas for Pokemon Saves the World, I thought that was a fantastic time. I hope Gary and Steve throw in more events like that so more people internationally can come and just have a good time. But what was it like for you growing up with Pokemon?
Yeah, basically, I'm really a kid of the 90s. So it means that I grew up with Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Zelda, Mario, all these Japanimation games and stuff like that. So when Pokemon came in France, in Europe, when I was based as a child back then, it was fairly normal for me and for us to jump into the ride. It was really when the Pokemon Mania came out, we it was a natural process to play the games. Game Boy, I played the red version first, then blue, yellow, and so on. And when I discovered the cards, it was over. I really went deep into it, like for two years and a half, I think. And the chance I have is that in my family we have hardcore collectors. So it means I had that this kind of culture, how to collect stuff, to
Kind of
protect them.
genetic.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. And we don't throw away things, so it's important for later, because when I when the Pokemon mania in Europe kind of faded away, I kept all of my stuff, almost all of my stuff, and even friends, they want to get rid of their card, they give me some of the binders and stuff like that. So I was very lucky, and it's basically how I got into Pokemon in 1999 in France. I was located in Paris, which was a huge chance for me because we had Japanese sellers coming over to Paris, and they brought stuff from Japan, such as cards, such as exclusivity items that you never get it in Europe or even in the US, and even some artwork that wasn't released in France or in Europe yet, but they have it already in Japan. So it was very nice. I got to know, for example, the Neo sets way before it was released in the Western countries. So that was something very nice. And thanks to that, I had the chance to get a little bit curious about what's happening in Japan. And from the late 90s, early 2000s, I already knew, for example, what the trophies were, which
Hmm.
is crazy when you think of it. But the thing is, the way I'm articulating this now is not like it was something crazy for me. It was something totally normal. I was just curious. I was in it. I was reading magazine. They were translating actually U.S. magazine to a French language, and it is how we get to know what was happening overseas. Plus, in Paris, there is a very famous library selling Japanese books, and they have an underground of merch and stuff like that, where all the Japanese cards are from the first release to the 2000s. So it's how I got the chance to know Pokemon back then. That was my introduction to the franchise.
Were you like growing up, was there ever that little phase that most of us people who come back into the hobby where you just collect and then you stop collecting, or but because of the fact that you have this genetic aspect of collecting, did that just stick with you the entire time and you just never left the hobby?
So the thing is, when I stopped collecting Pokemon, so I stopped at some point.
Okay.
I made a promise to myself as a child. Whenever I get graduated, I have a job, I have a fixed situation, I'll go back to my collection. That's something that always stick with me. And to tell you more about that, I went to Japan, I think maybe 6 years after I stopped, and there were Pokemon everywhere. I still loved it, and I was following kind of lurking what's around, but I didn't
Right.
bought anything. I knew it wasn't the right time. And in 2014, when I got graduated in 2013, my last degree, and I got a job in December. Summer 2014, I started again, basically. So it was really something I was kind of preparing myself to go back to my collection, the French cards and Japanese and US and stuff. So,
Yeah, so it's not like
and
you stopped. It was just more of like a pause till you were
pause,
ready to get the
exactly.
things that you actually wanted. So like when you first got back into the hobby, what were some of the cards that you were kind of chasing afterwards? Because I know that it's some you were following along right off the bat, and so like I'm sure that you had a good solid list of the things that you wanted. What were some of the things that you wanted right off the bat, and what was that first thing that you crossed off the list that you've
Yeah,
always wanted?
it's a great question, and it's fairly straightforward. I opened my binders. They were French cards first, and then they came Japanese. The first card I bought actually was a magneton from the fossil set, French fossil set. First
Mhm.
card I bought, $10 back then, first edition. And the second item I bought was a best set booster box, first edition, a French version from the US. I bought it for $100, and the guy put it in the simple later, and it came all crushed. But I didn't care because I just wanted to open it. So that was really the two first items I bought when I started again in 2014. Yeah, and then I finished that. I went to the Japanese cards, but the normal ones. And in 2015, I was considering like seriously getting the trophies. Is where really I thought it's time now be a little bit more serious about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you from right from the jump, you've always had such a tunnel vision towards the things that you've wanted, and I think and this is not a criticism towards most collectors. It's just if you have this sort of tunnel vision and you have such a focus on the things that you want, then a lot of the things in the hobby that seem impossible can very much become something very possible. It becomes um something easier to achieve. Not saying that it's impossible, but it's something that it becomes a lot more easier to achieve if you just work on that one thing on a consistent basis. Um, what was it? What was that first moment like when you first nailed, getting that first trophy card? And what was that first trophy card?
Yeah, actually, there's something I didn't uh, tell to a lot of people, but February 2015, I got the chance to buy an Illustrator for around 10K, 10 US dollar. Okay, so
What?
yeah, yeah. So, and what happened? You won't believe it, but I saw the card. I think it was on Yahoo Japan, and I bid on the card, and it was much easier back then to bid because they restricted way more, no? And I bid, and the guy told me, I don't want to sell it to you because you're a foreigner and you have a profile zero. And I said, but don't worry, I'll come over, I'll pay you cash, and it should be okay. So we made an appointment, and I couldn't go for the first time, you know. So I was like, sorry, guy, I really want to get the card, but I couldn't because of a job. I couldn't get there on time. He said, yeah,
Right.
but I was waiting for you and stuff like that. And I said, look, listen, I'll come on that date. That place, it was in Ikebukuro for the people who knows a bit of Tokyo. It's a very famous area of Japan. And what I did, NotShivam, is I booked a ticket. I was working at that time. I booked a ticket, flying Friday night, arriving early Saturday, meeting the guy the same afternoon on Saturday, and flying back on Sunday to France. That was a 2 3 days journey. I got there. I paid the guy. I got the card and went back to France. That was my first trophy, but I wasn't mature enough to keep the card, and 10,000 in 2015 was an awful
Massive.
lot massive even today, because compared to the price of today, the discrepancy is huge, but it's still
Massive.
10,000 US dollar,
Yeah.
especially for a beginner. I was not even 1 year old, new collector, a newcomer, and I sold it immediately to somebody else. Yeah,
Right. I
because
mean, I'm sure
I
I'm
wasn't
sure like
prepared to
there's
keep.
right. So like you spending $10,000 on such a massive card at that time, not many people even in 2014, 2015 were doing, right? Like we hear I personally hear a lot of stories from people that were involved in the hobby 2016, 2017, people who have been around in the hobby for a decent amount of time, but I barely hear stories about people like yourself or people who have been in the community for much longer than that. I think someone like yourself, someone like Swolepoke have been involved in this hobby for such a long time. So what was it? What was the reason behind you wanting to spend $10,000 on such a card, especially when the hobby at that time, which I personally still think was still in its infancy. I still think the hobby's still in its infancy today. But
Mhm.
what was like that thought process of saying like, hey, I'm gonna spend 2 3 days and just traveling alone just to be able to acquire such a massive card like that. And I know that you said that you weren't mature enough to have that card. But what was it like for you? Was it tough for you to let go of that card when you first got it? Because spending 3 days just to travel to acquire a card. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure the journey itself is absolutely amazing, and the stories behind that is absolutely amazing. But what was it? I'm shooting different questions right now, but like, yeah, what
Mhm.
was that whole thought process uh, throughout that time?
So as I was saying at the beginning, I knew the illustrator from my childhood, the Pikachu trophies, Kangashkan stuff. So it was in my mind for years. So maybe it kind of grew up like the film Inception, the movie Inception. It was in my hand and it was kind of growing for years and years. But as soon as I started in 2014, when I say it became an obsession, collecting on the whole, I really was like addicted. every hours, every time. I was sleeping 2 hours at night because I was so addicted to it. Right, it was really an obsession. I was on eBay every time, searching, looking, because, but out of joy, out of passion, I was nothing. I was not even expecting something out of the collection, apart of acquiring card and um, reaching my goals and stuff like that. So after a few months, I decided, so I have to get an illustrator. I don't know how, but I should get one. And I think it was January or February. I'm not sure when exactly the card popped out on Yahoo auction, Yahoo Japan auction. I knew I had to get it. I don't know. I was really obsessed about. I was checking the auction every day, at least every 2 hours. I was checking the auction. If something was happening, maybe he'll take off the listing or something like that. And really, the word is obsession. I was really obsessed about that. And then I decided, okay, I'll go for it. I'll get it. I was happy for the whole journey. And I even took credit for that card because I was mega broke in 2014, 2015. And I got the card. I was very happy to reach that goal. But as I was saying, I wasn't prepared to keep it because I was new, not even 1 year, even though I was quite acquiring quite a lot. But going from maybe $500 card to 10,000, it's a huge step. So that's maybe the reason why it pushes me to get rid of the card, because it was like I don't know, I wasn't ready yet in 2015 to keep such a tremendous card. Yeah.
That's totally fair. Yeah, I mean, like that's still such an awesome story to talk. Massive card so long ago, and then you now have the card as well, still in your current possession. Um, you know, you've been in the hobby for so long now, and if you just take a look at Mr. Fuji's Instagram right now, you'll see massive upon massive grails as you just scroll through. My question to you is that for someone that has a lot in terms of Pokemon, and I'm sure you probably collect other things outside of Pokemon, are you still chasing certain cards that you do not have to this day in your personal Pokemon collection?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. As a collector, I will always be chasing cards.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I got the Pika number 297
Mm-hmm.
in 2020, I think, it's like I've reached what I could reach. And it's like you won the World Cup, for example, for a footballer, for example. If I can give you a comparison, what else can you get? Maybe a second one. So I'll be always happy to get a Pika number one or Pika number three to complete the set. But the number two was my like ultimate goal. I really wanted that card. And once I did it, I was kind of, what's next? And I was looking through my binders after that, and I say, okay, now what I can do is complete my binders, not looking for PSA 10s or grades. If I have the chance, I'll get them. But the thrill of chasing them was not as it was just right after I got that card. But something I'm chasing now is signed cards, either from Illustrator or very important people such as Ishihara, Masuda, and stuff like that. And another thing is original arts, painting, drawings. That's the thing I like to get today.
That's pretty cool because like I know like I sort of know that kind of feeling when I got my back when I got in the hobby, because I got in the hobby in 2019, and it was just I wasn't taking it any seriously in the spring of 2019. I started taking it very seriously around September 2019. And when I first started, I was going to thrift shops. Like I didn't know how to get vintage Pokemon cards at that time. And so like I would go around, I would ask around for people's binders, or like if someone had a binder, I'd buy it off of them. I'd be super hype if I found a beat up Team Rocket Eevee card from Team Rocket. I'd be like, oh wow, this is so cool. I would find it at a thrift shop. And, at that time, I said, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to have a first edition or even an unlimited Dark Charizard anytime soon. I thought, like, based off of my projections, based off of what I was doing at that time, I was gonna have it a year later. Sooner, within 3 months, I had a PSA 10, and then after that, within less than a year, I had a PSA 8 first edition Shadow Charizard card, and I was like, okay, that's it. Like, at that time when everything was spiking, I was like, there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to get a 9, and now that I have a 9, it became kind of desensitizing. I think that's kind of the word. It's like, oh, now that I have this, like, what's next? But obviously, there's always something, there to accomplish and there to achieve as far as being a collector goes. Let's say it's that aspect of having that obsession. And so, like, that leads me to my next question. Now that you've accomplished so much in Pokemon, are you collecting other collectibles outside of Pokemon? Like, let's say Magic the Gathering, Dragon Ball. I know Dragon Ball is a fairly new TCG. Are you collecting trophies from that? Are you collecting? I'm sure there's probably Sailor Moon cards out there too. What are you collecting now outside of the realm of Pokemon?
Yeah. So the thing I collect the most by far is Pokemon. Either cards, drawing, whatever related to Pokemon I collect. So, and the second thing I will say will be football cards, such as
Mm.
Messi, Ronaldo, Iniesta, iconic players like Maradona, Pelé. It's something really I always enjoy. I'm playing football myself, and in Paris, in Europe, and in Germany, it's something very popular here. You can go and play, find people. So it was for me kind of natural to collect those cards, even though cards are not as popular as in the US. When I went there, I think it was in a Dallas show, if I recall correctly. You have a lot of cards. It's very famous to have like tops, to have mega cracks, stuff like that. But in Europe, it's more stickers. We have
Hmm.
like stickers, and we stick them in the album. It was something that we had way more than cards. So I have to kind of learn how to collect those things. But thanks to Pokemon, it was much easier for me to learn that, and especially to get into graded cards, because it's where my collection is heading for this kind of stuff. So that would be the second thing. And funny that you mentioned Dragon Ball. I was talking with a friend from Belgium, and he's collecting cards. So he's kind of introducing me to the Dragon Ball Z era, from especially from the late 90s.
Yeah.
But I'm a total noob. Apart from my childhood knowledges, that's it.
I see a lot of Dragon Ball Cardist stuff on well, I don't see a whole lot of it, but I see a lot of Cardist stuff in regard to Digimon, as well as Dragon Ball from time to time on eBay, because I'm kind of like you. Like last night I got done playing some video games with one of my buddies, and I immediately was just on eBay for a solid 2 hours until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I looked at the clock. It's like, oh crap, I gotta go to sleep. And so, like, it's still that obsession where, I have a lot of things that I want to collect, and there some of these things I feel like I probably won't get done with for another like 4 or 5 years or something like that. But
Mm,
what's that grill card you're chasing when it comes to soccer?
yeah, soccer. If I really want to go for one card, it will be the rookie card of Messi.
Okay.
That would be. I had the chance to get it at some point, but I had to choose between that and a trophy card, a Pokemon trophy card, and of course the Pokemon trophy card took it over. But that would be my main grail, because I like the player, I like the team he's playing or he was playing for, and all that. It represents kind of my childhood when I was watching with my father and stuff like that. So it's really something I would love to get. And when I say that, it's in PSA 10, of course. And now the card is worth six figures plus. So
Yeah.
it's insane. Yeah.
Um, seeing the current state of what Pokemon is now, I'm sure Pokemon is vastly different from when you first came into the hobby in 2014 versus now. I think a lot of things have definitely changed significantly within the past 2 years. There's a lot of eyes and a lot of attention on Pokemon right now, and this is just the very beginning. I think there's going to be much more eyes and much more attention as more and more people join this hobby. But with the current state of Pokemon right now, where everything's sort of in a down market, what are your thoughts on these big massive sales as far as trophy cards go. Do you think this is a great time? Because I see we just saw a sale where someone had bought 3 trophy Pika cards on
Mm,
auction, and Alex in the chat says there's a raw Illustrator on auction right now, but it's already getting too high. And my
mhm.
sponsor Ken Lee, the Pokemon Network, he said that he was trying to go after it too. So he I think he's bowing out of it. What are your do you think that trophy cards are still relatively strong? Do you think that the future is super bright for Pokemon collectibles? Are you like very bullish on that? Like I know you're a
Yeah,
collector at heart, and I know that at this point the value isn't what matters to you. It's more like it's sort of like a cherry on top. But when you reach $5,000, $10,000, 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures in terms of value, in terms of collectibles, at that point it's very at that point you think of it much more of outside of it being a collectible, but also as an asset at that point. So what are your thoughts on the future of collectibles in terms of TCG? Because I know sports cards has been around for well over a century now. Like you're talking about 122 years, 20 at least 120 years, if we're talking about baseball. But when we're talking about cards in general for Pokemon is still very much in its infancy. So like, do you think that this is something that will last a very very long time? Are you very optimistic about that?
yeah. It's a great question, and I think you give quite very important elements. And the first one is Pokemon being so new. And the thing is, we got to a so big boom with the Pokemon within the last 2 3 years
Mm-hmm.
that our point of comparison or reference point can be biased because we went from a good market to a huge explosion that everything you just at some point you were just buying something. 1 week later it can have doubled or triple or quadruple in the span of 2 weeks, which was crazy. So the first thing I will say is Pokemon is mega new, and you mentioned sports cards. I will also mention comics. I have friends, they're into comics. I'm not into comics at all, but they are very good friends, and it's good to have those kind of comparisons because it gives you a better understanding of how a
Mm-hmm.
market works. And when you see the prices of comics today, you Pokemon is like a child
Yeah,
next to a comics,
it's
really.
chump change.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the comics are around since the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
The gold age, I think the gold era of comics, yeah. But whatever, they're here for almost 80 years or 60, 70 years, whereas Pokemon is only there for 25 years. That's the second thing. The third thing is Pokemon is not a huge franchise. It's just the biggest franchise ever.
Right.
It's even bigger than Batman, than Hello Kitties,
Yeah, it's
Star
the number
Wars.
one media franchise in the world, the highest
Yeah,
grossing media franchise in the world.
it's insane. And the thing is, sometimes you're into a collection, into a hobby, and I don't want to be biased. I try my best, to be as much as neutral as possible. But because you're in there, sometimes you can be biased. But when I was crunching the numbers and searching for how big Pokemon is in terms of number, and I saw that key element of Pokemon being the biggest franchise ever, I was so blown away by that I couldn't really fathom how big it was. So, and it's not that it's big; it's way bigger than the biggest franchise that have been there for years and
A long
decades,
time, yeah.
a long time ago. So it means that's the first thing. Another thing is that Pokemon is also a multi-generational franchise, and something that's it's very strong within Pokemon. It starts at a very young age. I mean, at 6 7 years, children start with the Pokemon, and a lot of people were arguing that the Pokemon mania we had the last 3 years, it's even bigger than what we had in the late 90s, early
90s, yeah.
2000s, which means a lot because we had the social media. um Pokemon company is more mature, and they're controlling way better their marketing, their businesses, how they promote everything. And it leads me to the fact that if Pokemon doesn't, sorry for the term, screw up everything, I don't see Pokemon fading away. I think we here for at least, and I'm being very conservative here, at least 30 years. That's the bare minimum. But Pokemon is still a market. Collectible, it's a market. And of course, you will see ups and downs. And it means the market is healthy. The downs that we see today, a lot of people are seeing that are way higher than the ups that we had 2 3 years ago, which
Yeah.
means a lot. I think what we have to do, nobody knows for sure what the future holds. We have to wait and to see how the market regulates himself itself. But at some point, it will regulate. Maybe we'll face a financial crisis when everything will be hit by that. But if in 5 years, in 10 years, Pokemon goes up again, for me it will be fairly normal. But and another thing is, if they were to tell us that in 2021 a Pokemon card would sell for $1 million or $5 million, like 5 years from now, we will have to say, okay, guy, you have to see a doctor. There is something wrong there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty confident. We might see ups and downs. That's
Yeah.
normal. Every market have seen that. But saying that Pokemon will fade away, I don't see that coming really.
Yeah, I like to compare Pokemon now to what Star Wars was back in the 80s, and how it had, like, here in the States, it was just so massive here. And you know, looking at what Pokemon is to Star Wars now, it just has that much influence, and Star Wars is multi-generational. You can people back in the 80s were showing their kids this stuff, and like now with Disney having a hold of Star Wars, there's still more and more movies now. There's more kids getting involved with that sort of franchise. So like it's only safe to say that Pokemon will do the same. There's already parents today, like people that we grew up with now have kids that are now showing their kids the same thing. Like I see so many videos today where I see a dad or a mom, putting their baby in front of three plushies with the Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur, and they'll pick out their starter Pokemon at that age. And so I'm pretty confident. Well, I wouldn't say I'm confident. I just know that it's going to be here to last. And I'm very optimistic as to what things are. And I think anyone who is kind of concerned with what's going on needs to kind of zoom out a little bit and look at what the lowest lows of what the hobby was back 5 years ago, and look at it what it is now, or look at what the lowest lows were back 3 years ago. And so, yeah, it's super cool. Don Diego Trading's in the chat. She says, "I'm getting all my friends' babies Pokemon cards." So,
I don't do.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually have an interesting question from the chat. Mertz Collectible asks, "What do you think about the extra copies of trophy cards that were awarded? Trophies versus copies released in the indented method." Yeah. So let me reread that again. What do you think about the extra cards of trophies versus the copies released in the indented method? I'm not sure what the indented method is, so if you want to
Mhm.
clarify what that is, let me know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if the question is what I think about the extra copy. I think without the extra copy, we will have barely seen trophy cards. So I think it's a good thing in that way. Maybe the the question behind it is, does it kind of decrease the value of trophy cards? I don't
Oh,
see
it says
that.
intended method. So I guess extra copies that were, I guess, given out to employees
Mm,
of creatures versus trophy cards that were actually given out and awarded to actual contestants. So like I'm sure TCA Gaming
yeah.
just showed a TMB card that wasn't officially released. It came from a former employee of Creatures. What's your opinion on that? Does that detract or does that take away the level of significance behind cards that actually have a historical value or historic merit that was actually given
Mm.
to actual players or given to actual people who actually participated in an illustration contest?
I think that that there can be like a premium for the card that were awarded to the winners. But the thing is with trophy is sometimes you don't have the choice. If the card is available, you get only what's available on the market, because the thing is with trophy and such, rare cards is once they sold, sometimes they will never leave a collection for 10 years, 15, 20 years. So that if they were a lot available, that will have a huge impact, definitely. So the question
Right.
is very interesting in that way. But saying that the trophies are so rare, just getting one, it's very you get very lucky just to get even an extra copy. I will be more than thrilled to have a Pika's trophies extra copy. So yeah,
Do
I
you
don't think
think
that's
do you think that like cards that weren't released officially, like actually given out, do you think that if they go through the process of grading, do you think that the label should reflect that, or do you think that it should stay the way it is? Because I know like often at times, if I want to check the provenance of a card, and provenance is such a big thing when it comes to trophy cards, you as a collector, I feel like, or myself as a collector, I feel like you would much rather have a card that was actually awarded out versus just given to an employee who technically isn't supposed to sell it. That is now that did eventually sell it. Like there are a lot of cards, um, out there that I feel like we just don't know the actual provenance of, and I think that might have questions or concerns when it comes to where did it come from. Like how would you know whether or not your Pikachu Illustrator is an extra versus what it was, given? It's so tough.
yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to answer. Is there are certain cards, it's just the card. So as soon as if you can document the card from A to Z, then you can of course label it on the graded card. But
Mm,
there are cards that are just given out like this. If you cannot document where they come from, how can you say it comes from a winner to another? So because of
right.
that,
It's
cannot
hearsay, yeah.
I cannot see a credit company putting something special unless they have everything related to that card, where it comes from. They have like maybe with the holo pattern, they can say exactly that card was awarded at that time to that particular person. That will be feasible. But with what we just say prior to that, it's very tough for even for us, even for hardcore collectors into the high end collection. Sometimes it's very hard to keep track where the card has been, to whom it has been rewarded, in which hands it was through the time. So yeah, I think it's fairly tough to really have this
Yeah.
kind of.
I feel like I as
I
a
understand the idea behind
right.
the reward with the uh, between the rewarded cards with extra copies.
Yeah, I feel like for myself, like if I went through the process of being able to buy a trophy card from an employee, I feel like I would much rather say like I'd be very public about it, and I would try to say like whatever grading company I go to, probably PSA, I'd say like, hey, this card wasn't awarded. Is there any way we could label it as such that this card was not awarded, but it's still such a limited print of a card. It's still very very low print in comparison to, let's say, something that was released as a trading card set. I think that's kind of the process that I would do. Um,
Mhm.
you know, are you chasing 3D Dynamics asked this question, and I'm sure, I mean, I kind of sort of asked this question already, in terms of if you're collecting anything else outside of Pokemon. You said football, also known as soccer, but he asked, are you chasing any Yu-Gi-Oh grails? Because obviously we saw Kazuki Takahashi just pass away recently. um
Yeah.
Amazing person, amazing franchise, franchise that's near and dear to my heart. Is that something, are you contemplating collecting anything of the sort? Are you going to be that guy that collects the metal black luster original trophy card? Because I would love to just see that in person. I don't think I haven't seen it
Yeah.
surface in such a long time.
It's funny, but Yu-Gi-Oh! I wasn't chasing like the ultimate grails, but at some point I had in hand the Blue Eyes White Dragon wavy version and glossy version, both in PSA 10. So I had them in hand. I had the head of I have the French name of the the character Exodia, I think Exodia. Exodia PSA 10. I had all of those cards, but I have to sell them to get uh,
Pokemon.
some Pokemon. But
Yeah.
I have also I was very sad when we learned that the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh just passed away recently, and I give my condolences not only to that but also what happened in Japan in regard to the ex prime minister, because it's maybe out of topic, but yeah, in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh Grails, I would love to get them, but at some point you have to make choices, and if I didn't have made those choices, I wouldn't have get the Illustrator, the Pikas and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And I mean, you're
c'est
also
la vie.
fairly young too, so it's like it's never too late to
Thank
collect
you.
something outside of Pokemon. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
you can never say never when it comes to collecting cuz like I collect Pokemon, but I also love Digimon just cuz of, the time period, the anime itself. I loved it. And so like Yu-Gi-Oh as well was just something that I got super involved with growing up. But I could totally see you getting, the blackluster trophy card if it ever surfaced. I feel like if that opportunity presented itself, I feel like you'd be there, or like you would help someone, like maybe one of your close friends, or maybe someone out there will probably get it. Maybe Dubsy already has it in his collection.
Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Who knows?
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit more. So, I know Hadoken Nito is a massive middleman. Um, I'm sure there's only certain things you can talk about, but what was that process of becoming that representative for Dubsy? Because I know you're friends with him. Um,
Hmm.
how did you create that level of trust to be able to represent someone at that kind of magnitude, and then be able to sit down and conduct these kind of massive deals that are currently happening today?
Hmm. Yeah. And, regarding Dubsy, uh, the thing is, first how I met him, I was in Dubai, and Nido actually put us into in contact with Dubsy. So that's really how we get in touch with Dubsy, and because we are sharing the same passion for cards, collection, collectibles, and stuff like that, we became friends. And at some point, I moved to the UAE, to Dubai, and we live maybe 15 minutes away from
Oh,
one another. So it's convenient to share the hobby and the passion, and it's really how it started. We became friends like this just by the love of the hobby Pokemon, and Dubsy is a huge lover of Pokemon, especially Pika's, Charizard, and other stuff, and we were sharing a lot. And of course, I've been already I went public already. I was more reserved and just on Instagram, but as soon as I did the video with Leonhardt, Pokirev,
Rev, yeah.
uh, and I met you guys and stuff like that. I went to Dallas and other stuff. I became more and more known, like publicly speaking.
Mhm.
So and I got maybe I got more and more knowledge, more experience, experiments. I don't know. I got yeah, I got some insights about the hobby. My network got way bigger than that than he was previous, and I was kind of helping Dubsy from time to time with stuff, giving him advices when he needed, and at some point came some big deal like the one we saw recently, and we were going back and forth. He was searching for information and advices, and I was there, so I helped him the best as I could back then, and that's how that's how it went. Yeah.
That's pretty
I don't
cool.
know if
I've heard like people say that when obviously Dubsy is a very very private person, but I've heard stories where people will see his collection and they're just like jaw dropped. This guy has everything, everything. Um,
but excuse me to interrupt you, but the first time I saw like a chunk of his collection, I was so blown away. So it's like I'm seeing you, but my mind cannot process what is happening. And thanks to be just 15 minutes away of where I live, I was going there like every week and seeing the collection. I was like, wow, what is that? It's insane.
yeah,
It's out of this world. And I'm talking to you now about that. I'm shivering
yeah. I
because
mean, I
it
so I
reminds me the
just
whole thing.
I just had Pokemon enthusiast on the podcast a couple of days ago, and he's currently working on a card that was just shown with Jeremy, and they're not public about it yet, but I saw one of the cards that Dubsy has, and I'm like, wow. We're
Yeah,
like talking like pop two, like we're talking like true grails, and I was just amazed. And if that, like, that's just probably a small fraction of what he probably has, and it's really cool to know that you and your friend Dubsy just kind of fueled each other's obsession with this hobby, and I think that's like the coolest thing about it. And it's not seen as like a as it might be seen as an investment first and foremost to many, but it's not seen like that. It's seen as like an actual passion, actual hobby first and foremost, and then the cherry on top is always a value behind it. And
yeah,
it always brings this level of childhood wonderment and amazement and level of escapism to it. I can totally see myself, I can totally see you being in your 80s still collecting. I like you talked about, the collecting has been such a major thing in your family. My mom does not understand collecting whatsoever. She threw out all of my Pokemon cards. Like when we moved, I had nothing. I had to start from zero. The only thing I had left was a VHS of the Pokemon the first movie. But my dad was always this massive collector. Like we collected
wow,
Hot Wheels, and he collected stamps. He even collected matchbooks. He collected baseball cards, stuff like that. So like I think I can relate to that, and that's something that I can always relate to with other collectors that have family members that collected other things as well. Um, uh, I would ask you what's probably the coolest thing you saw in Dubsy's collection, but him being private, I'm not gonna ask that. I will ask you,
yeah.
um, with such a massive collection that you currently have, is there always something that always kind of like changes like the flavor of the week, that something that you'll just take out and you'll just look at just to appreciate? Like what's something like this week that you're currently just like loving? What is that one thing that is just that has consumed a lot of your collection? Because like I know for me, when I got my first edition Shadowless Charizard card, that consumed my attention for a full on month. But when I got my Black
Yeah,
War Greymon, that consumed my attention for 2 months. So like, what would you say is like something that you are currently appreciating right now?
yeah. The thing is that I'm very lucky. I know I have grades and people that are really willing to have to scout, or at least having the chance who just admiring them. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, because of security, I have to put them in the vault in the bank, which is at the end of the day, it's a good thing because I have to wait to make an appointment with the bank, go there. So it's a whole process before meeting the card. It's like I'm having a long distance relationship with my
Relationship.
card. So I'm like I'm like waiting for weeks before, and I'm traveling a lot. So when they're there. I cannot see my card. Maybe sometimes for 3 months, even half a year sometimes. So that's a good thing in with these drawback kind of. But something I'm really enjoying at the moment, I got Ishira signed card. I'm very happy about that because it came from a guy I know from France. It was given out to a winner back then in France, which for me, being born and raised there, it means a lot. So I'm very happy with that. And as I was saying prior to that, I like going through my binders a lot. It really reminds me when I was a child with the sleeves, putting cards into binders. It really brings out that specific part of childhood as a collector. So that will be my answer here. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that it's pretty funny how you called it. It's like having like a first date. I think that's kind of hilarious. I know for me, like I have my all my cards are currently stored away right now. My massive ones, they're currently stored away. So it's I kind of understand that. I think there's obviously there are drawbacks, but it's sort of having this new level of appreciation for what you have whenever you do see it.
Yeah,
Which I think is pretty cool. Um, how much time do we have left? Because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
that's fine. No
We
worries.
are at 50 minutes. Okay, cool. Um, let's go ahead and segue over to this most recent video, and I wanted to talk about that as well. Um, I know that Logan just got his PSA 10 um, Pikachu Illustrator card. That card has an old cert. And for a while, it just did not show up on PSA Pop reports. So, um, I want to kind of talk about that. Why was it not on? Like, what are your thoughts on why it was not on the pop report? But before we want to get to that, there's a person in the chat that says, retro. His name is Retro Scholar. He says, please say hi to Mr.
Oh,
Fuji
yeah.
for me. He's such a
Right.
great friend, person, and collector, and thank you for hosting him. And then
Yeah.
I don't know how to speak French, so I'm gonna butcher this. It says
Mhm.
un francias se habi en est rempli.
Okay. I don't. Who is writing that that
The
message?
the person who typed that in French is Chevals, Chevals.
Yeah. Bonjour cheval. Okay, it's like an insider kind of a question. Yeah. No,
Okay,
but
okay.
hello to Retro Scholar is a very good friend also from the UAE. We share a lot. Yeah, we have a small community there in the UAE, in Dubai, and it's very nice to share this kind of story and stuff like that. But to go back to the Illustrator PSA 10, when I started in 2014, I've seen the listing of Scott Pratt on his eBay. So for me, it was always there because I've seen it. So I really didn't question it, and somehow it disappeared from the pop report.
Mm.
For which reason, I really don't know. So, but I didn't really question myself. I knew the card was there, it exists, but what has happened with the pop report, I have no idea really.
Yeah, it was probably just because like their system probably completely changed, or um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a old cert, right?
At some point, the thing is, I think in PSA we had even two pop reports for Illustrator. You have to go to Illustrator and like I think it was promo Japanese promo.
Uh,
One report was Japanese promo and the other one was trophy or something like that. I'm not
so it's a
sure,
labeling thing.
but
Okay.
yeah, the labeling kind of makes it that you had two pop report at the same time. So even the total number of Pikachu Illustrator weren't accurate. Wasn't accurate at that time. So yeah, maybe they changed the label at some point, but I cannot really answer that question because I have no info really.
Yeah. People in the chat said that I read it like it was Latin, and that butchered it too soft for what just happened. Um, but I want to ask. But
Mhm.
this is kind of off tangent, but I think it's relevant because you've been in the hobby for so long. We just saw the Disco Charizard graded by CGC. So it's kind of like a test print of some sorts. Obviously, I know that TCA Gaming has a sheet, Swolpoke has a sheet, and someone else has a sheet, and you and I know who that person is. But seeing that, it leads me to believe that there's still so many different kinds of cards, so many different variations of the cards still like within the development of the Pokemon TCG itself that probably still hasn't been unearthed. So,
Yeah.
are you collecting stuff like that? Are you going after cards? Are you at that kind of capacity? Are you going after like test print sheets? Are you going after test print cards? Are you going after that kind of stuff in the very very early phases of Pokemon?
I don't go into that area of collecting, to be honest, but I do have FPO for position only cards, which will be the closest like test card I
Correct.
have in my possession. But there are cards that I would love to have, and it just has popped out. I think a few months ago, they are the very first test card. They even glue the artwork on the cardboard to really have an idea of what the cards would look like. They are Japanese, of course, and that would be for me the ultimate grail for physical item in terms of card. That will be the really something I would love to have, but I think it will be almost impossible. And I hope they'll go to a museum or something at some point. That would be
Yeah, that'd be
amazing.
really cool. Yeah, to
Yeah,
to kind of have like a Pokemon museum and just see stuff like that at full on display. But I'm sure Pokemon just kind of has all that vaulted up, and even like with certain
yeah,
collectibles, American collectibles, excuse me, I feel like a lot of that's kind of vaulted up with them as well. Um,
that's true. But you,
I
you see,
think
there are theme park like Nintendo theme park, Ghibli studio theme park. I don't see why a Pokemon theme park will. I see a Pokemon theme park being built in 10 years, maybe 15 years.
Of
That's
course.
something that's make totally sense. But when, I don't know, even in the US, they might do it. In Japan and the US, that would be
I mean,
crazy.
it being, the number one media franchise in the world, I don't see why not, right? It's definitely bigger
Yeah,
than Harry Potter, and Harry Potter has space at Disney. So, um, yeah, it's just it's bound to happen. It's just a matter of when.
it's a matter
Um,
of time, yeah.
yeah. So you were shown on Logan Paul's video. You bring out a case. Was that
Yeah.
case yours?
No, part of the item were mine, but most of them were from Dubsy because the collection is
That is just
beyond.
massive. Just like
And
just to be able to handle $15 million in just collectibles alone, that's just crazy. Um,
the love of the hobby, he has the knowledge, and he has so much item. But it's not only the quantity; it's the quality of it. And I know there are people in Europe, in the US, in Japan, they have an extensive uh, collection, but in terms of quantity, they're worth a lot. Like they've been there, they've been in contact with Wizards employees, so they have like millions of dollars of value of item. But to have such a diversity of item at such a high level of quality, for me it's unheard of. I I've been to many places. I've met a lot of people, but such extensive collection and so many EC10s, black labels. I had never seen that in my life. Really, it's uh,
yeah,
it's out of this
I'm
world.
sure. I'm sure. Like it never really gets old at all. We were just experiencing a lag, but it was a brief lag, so we're totally fine. Um, I guess my next question to you is, seeing that PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator card. For the past 2 weeks, I've kind of known about it because I've been listening to Logan's podcast. He kind of mentioned that he was putting it up on Liquid Marketplace, and I guess there's a lot of talk about his reasoning as to why Logan has put it up on Liquid Marketplace and how you know um, he wants to retain 49% of it, and that a lot of it's being sold. A lot of the fractionalized shares are being sold currently. Um, what are your obviously, like, we're not here to talk bad about anyone or anything, but what's your opinion on that whole aspect of being able to put out a video and kind of just pretty much promoting his company that he helped co-found, um, and him retaining 49% of the rights. Like what? Like you're obviously not Logan Paul, but like what are your thoughts are in terms of why he did that, and what are your thoughts on that whole aspect of collectibles being fractionalized and sold, and in this sort of marriage of what's currently taking place in the whole cryptocurrency aspect of it.
Mm. Yeah, see, yeah. The first thing that we sometimes forgot is at the end of the day, it's his card. So
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to say that, but he can do whatever he wants with his possession. So if it has been my card, I will have kept it, for example. But he does whatever he wants. So I feel, because I always feel a bit uncomfortable judging someone behavior with his collection, because there are so many ways to collect.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that that's the right way to collect, you're not a true collector, stuff like that, is not something I want to get involved, because I don't know. I never. I'll try not to judge a collector or things like that, but I don't know. I don't know what's his real idea behind it. What I will keep in mind is that how we can benefit to the hobby. It gives a huge exposure to Pokemon, to trophies, obviously, and this kind of item. And regarding the fractional ownership, to be honest, at the beginning I was more into wait and see. I'm not sure what is it, but I wanted to see. Then I started to ask a lot of people about it. So you have people, they're totally against it. That's
Mm-hmm.
no brainer. They say
Because I
no.
know companies like Rally, Otis, there's probably some more companies out there that are doing fractionalized shares of all of this. I know way back, I know Otis reached out to us, but nothing came into fruition because we were still in the early stages of our podcast at that time. But no, yeah, I'm firmly behind you in terms of like just waiting and seeing and just kind of going on from
Yeah,
there and seeing how well certain things are adopted. Because again, it kind of goes back to the point that Pokemon is still in its early phases.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. And then I was discussing with other people, and they were very happy to own a chunk of an item, which
Hmm.
can be surprising to other. And I had a discussion with a guy in France actually, and he was telling me, imagine they sell parts of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Would you buy a piece? I say immediately, because
Hmm.
culturally speaking, it's very important to us. And I find the comparison quite interesting. Of course, the Eiffel Tower is nothing compared to maybe Pokemon cards to people, but it gives you a good idea of how some people they really want to participate in the hobby. They know, I don't know, they cannot afford some very high end cards, and that gives them a sense of ownership. So to that, with that comparison, I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. So for some people, and we saw that Liquid Marketplace is doing great. So it seems that a lot of people can relate to that. So to respect their feeling and how they view the collection, I'll say,
Hmm.
okay, fair enough. There is so many way to collect again. So maybe
Yeah.
it's a way that works. And since it's new, when something's new, you have strong
Opinions. Yeah.
people opinions. That's it. Yeah. So
Yeah. Totally.
that's
Um. Kind of want to. Obviously, I know you don't collect much outside of Pokemon and football. But I want to get your thoughts on two different things. I'm gonna start on one. Right now, in the States here, I'm not sure if you have any rumblings over there, but I'm sure you probably see it on social media. There's what is called the indie TCG era that's currently taking place right now. There's so many newer TCGs that are popping up every single day. They have been for like the past year or so now. You have MetaZoo, you have all these newer TCGs that are kind of popping up. What are your thoughts on those? Do you see longevity with those, especially with what's going on right now? Or do you just don't really have an opinion on it because it's just like I only watch and participate and focus on Pokemon and soccer so much that you just don't want to give the attention to something that's relatively brand new?
no, definitely. I think we will see many projects coming out and fading away. But I see, for example, there is Flesh and Blood. It was massive in the US, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's taking over Europe.
Huh.
And they're just releasing what they call a history pack, if I'm not mistaken, which is like the legendary collection. They just bringing all the cards from the first sets into one new set because it's the first ever new French set for the French community. So it tells you that there are people they're willing to enter a new TCG. I don't know how you call it, NTCG. I forgot the name. And definitely there'll be space and room for this kind of games because some people they want just to discover new games, new way of playing. Maybe the meta of the game is different of what we have. So in that sense, yeah, I think there is room. A lot of projects will disappear over time, that's for sure. But we
Mm-hmm.
might see like two, three projects staying forever or for a long time at least. Yeah.
That's pretty farewell to say. Um, I was going to ask about this. Um, because Mertz just mentioned it right now. I was going to ask about this specifically. So obviously, you're a collector for a long time. Um, I want to get your unbiased opinion on this because I know you have a lot of PSA cards. There's a lot of grading companies out there that have also popped up as well. We see CGC, currently taking rise within the current space right now. They're really really aggressive right now with how they're doing a lot of their marketing. They're getting into contact with a lot of content creators. They're getting into contact with whatnot streamers, and all sorts of influential people within the space. Not me, because I'm not really cool, but I want to know what your thoughts are on the state of grading. So, do you think that AI grading is the future? Do you think, and when I ask that question, I'm not talking about a specific company. Do you think that grading cards kind of need to go to pure AI and it needs to go to, or do you think that there still needs to be some level of human involvement? Do you think that uh uh these other newer grading companies isn't really too great? Um, what's your thoughts on like companies like CGC, stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in terms of technology, if the technology matches the criterion of grading, I'll say why not. For example, centering. You don't need a human eye today. A machine can do it fairly easily. But for example, scratches. How do you imagine that you have a machine or uh, sorry, I have German words coming to my mind. You have a device, yeah, a
Mhm.
device that can say you have that amount of scratches. How do you put the trigger? Like when is enough scratches, not enough, enough to reduce the grade, things like that. So that's something that they have to be discussed maybe within the grading company, and then maybe we have the chance as collector to say to give our opinion about that. So I'm not against technology at all. I think it will be a good mix between human and device or
But
things
you
like
don't
that.
think it should be
Technology.
like heavily on just AI because like I think at the end of the day you still probably need some level of human interaction with it. And you don't think it should
Today,
just strictly
today,
be humans involved with it.
today, maybe with my humble knowledge, I don't know if technology can alone grade cards, but I might be wrong here. But helping what the company are actually doing, why not? But
Okay.
taking over completely, I'm not sure. Really, I'm not sure. Maybe I don't. I'm missing some insights here, but that's the first thing. And what was your last question? Sorry,
I think
Shivam.
you covered that. I think you answered that pretty well. You answered all the questions in regards to that. I think that might be it. I'm trying to figure out what else to ask because you are a fairly busy man, but you're always happy to answer any of my messages through the DMs. Um, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I'm always happy to share the community. I would love to come more often to the US, but lately it's pretty hectic.
Yeah,
Fairly soon we will be holding an event in France again. Maybe by the end of the year or early next year.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you must then welcome to come over. Yeah, you know already, but I'm telling
Yeah,
you
you just
publicly. So,
like just it jogged my memory again, but like you guys just had TCG Gala in France. In what was it?
correct.
April? It was April, correct? It was
Yeah,
April.
end
Kind
of
of
April.
talk to us about that cuz like there wasn't much fanfare about it. There wasn't much content about it, but from every person that went like Gary, other people that also went to the event itself, I see pictures from time to time of the event and how successful it was. Um, Talk to us about that. Like, what was the overall experience? What was the purpose of TCG Gala? Was it just there to have overall collectors there? Is it like I'm not sure if you ever been to any like actual trade shows here in the states, but is it something similar to that based off of whatever you've seen? Like actual vendors that are present. Like, what was talk to us a little bit more about TCG Gala because I know that you guys are going to want to have more events there. I know I want to be there just because like I know that back in April you gave me an invite. I'm like, man, I want to come but I can't come. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, tell us a little bit more about TCG Gala and your overall experience with that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, the idea is to hold such an event because we kind of felt that the community wanted to have this kind of event. We have like a huge event in France. It's called Japan Expo, which is related to anything with Japanimation. Everything you can imagine, and it lasts for 3 days, and they welcome, I think, hundred thousands of people during that weekend. So it's huge. And I was traveling to the US, so I've been to the Comic Con, I've been to Dallas show and stuff like that, and I was thinking to myself, Europe is so big, and we don't have this kind of event. It's nonsense to me. So in 2019, with some friends in Paris, in Europe, sorry, we were thinking we should hold an event. So we start to looking for places where we can do that and stuff like that, and how we wanted to articulate that it suits the European market kind of. But in 2020, we got hit by the global situation that we all
Right, and
know.
it set
So
things back. Yeah.
it's ended back like for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
actually, which was good at the end of the day because the hype struck the Pokemon hobby and stuff like that. So it brought way more people. And then at the end of 2021, we decided whatever it cost, we'll go for it, and we prepared that. So the idea was to have like an event with booths, sellers, artists, people well known in the hobby, either from the US, like Gary you mentioned, or people from Europe that are also very famous, like YouTubers with millions of viewers, just to gather as much people as we can
Hmm.
for that event. Then an exhibition with high-end items, Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, art, cards, and stuff like that, and a dinner to kind of close the whole day. And the thing is, we didn't market it like heavily because we wanted to have like a core of people involved in Europe to make sure that we'll have a great time. And it was totally a blast. It went way beyond our expectation. Uh, we had, I think we had like 500 to 600 people
Wow.
during daytime for first event. We and for the dinner we had almost 200 people. So that was it. It was the whole day from 9 to I think to 5 was the convention. So it was a convention. Then we had the exhibition for 2 hours from 7 to 9 p.m. And then starting at 9:30 we had the dinner, which lasts until early in the night. So yeah,
That's still
that
pretty
was
cool. Like you're putting on, you and your friends are kind of creating this thing where um it's something to grow, something to look forward to. And I mean the fact that you're kind of helping with that, I feel like you're planting roots in Paris and France and stuff like that, just to be able to grow the hobby even more. And I think that's pretty tremendous of what you're doing with in terms of your efforts, because it doesn't just stop at collecting. It's about creating a community and being able to form these much more deeper relationships with the people that you've spoken to, or like you want to be able to create these newer relationships. And I'm sure at that event that was exactly done. And I think based off of the pictures, based off of the posts that I've seen, it looked like a success. So congratulations for you and your
thank you
team,
very
and
much.
you and your friends to be able to put on such an amazing event. um as we close out this podcast, I kind of want to plug Mr. Fuji here. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. He is a true wealth of knowledge. He is a good friend. He is someone that you can go to if you have any particular questions. He's more than happy to answer your questions. Um, do you want to tell them how they can contact you or spell out your Instagram handle? It's at MISTER underscore Fuji FUGI underscore. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, just
Awesome.
reach out to me via Instagram the best way. I might take time to answer, but I always answer at some point.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, and I hope we can do something in the future in the
Yeah,
US
absolutely.
or
I wanna like
yes,
anytime I have a
somewhere
guest on
else.
the podcast, I always want them on the podcast afterwards. So, you're more than welcome to come on the podcast. If you're like, Shiv, we gotta do another podcast, then it's like, okay, well, let me get your schedule and we can work things out. And I'm glad it kind of worked out this week. Because having you here after such a huge video that just dropped, a video that was pretty much shot over a year ago. I think that's kind of crazy. Um, you know, again, we appreciate you and your time and all the things that you've done, and I look forward to talking to you more, guys. Please give a huge follow to Mr. Fuji on Instagram if you haven't done so. Do it now. And I want to kind of take in some time to touch on our sponsors again for the third time this week. Make sure you follow the Pokemon Network. Ken Lee, he's a funny looking guy, but he gets the job done. Follow him on Instagram. He has everything that you need, from the lowest of low objects, the most affordable things. If you're trying to look for the newest sets, definitely go reach out to him. If you're looking for massive cards, make sure you reach out to him. TCG Stadium is an online card shop. So is Double Infinity Gaming. They're both online card shops. Double Infinity Gaming is based in South Florida. Stadium is based in Nashville, Tennessee. Make sure you check out their websites and Instagram respectively, and check out whatever products they might have available. I know Pokemon Go is a huge, massive set. I know everyone's been peeling, getting those Ditto cards. I think that's pretty cool. And guys, check out the Collector app. The Collector app is the most advanced portfolio tracking app there is. You can track multiple TCGs as well as basketball and Funkos. So go give it a check out. And if you guys haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel. and make sure you spread the word. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, we want to be able to market this podcast to multiple verticals, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is. Share it with your friends and family. And the rebrand for the podcast will be happening very soon. It's switching over from Poke Tea Time to the Vaulted Podcast, and it's going to be pretty sick. We already have the logo. It's almost done. It's almost completed. We're just getting everything finalized. I have PokeRev's editor working on that as we speak. Once again, thank you guys for joining the podcast, and we will see you guys next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the next one. I will announce who our next guest is, and TapLab just put down the link for Mr. Fuji's Instagram, so make sure you click on that and give him a follow. Guys, thank you again for coming on, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.